Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Civil Service Data Challenge semi-final. We're all really excited to have you here today. We are in your hands, very excited to hear your presentation.
Good morning. Thanks for having us here today. We are SmartQ, using innovation and automation to drive value for civil service colleagues and the general public. I'd now like to hand you over to the mastermind of this concept, one of Border Force's principal analysts, Head of National Planning for Border Force, our product owner, Lucy Barnes.
Thank you. So we've all experienced queues where we're coming back into the country, or on the media, newspapers, 4 or 5 hour queues, Heathrow, etc., etc. But what might surprise you is that it is currently a manual process in the majority of ports to record those queue times. To go through the process is we have one of our officers with a stopwatch who will record when a passenger reaches what they deem to be the back of the queue, and will wait and record until they go through the control point. This is then manually transcribed on a piece of paper and then uploaded on a spreadsheet to then be collated by the centre to then come up with management information for senior leaders. Now, in some ports, we do that 4 times an hour, and some only once. Now, the problem with that is that there isn't a general queue definition. So if you have multiple officers, even in the same port, recording, they may be recording from different points. We have data quality issues from that, and also having discrete points of data means that sometimes we miss actually events that cause queue creation. Now, with all those issues, when we're using that information for, say, analysis or model builds, it means that we struggle to verify accurately those models. Some of those models are used for more strategic projects, some of the multi-million pounds projects, such in the 5 systems, if you're aware of the Home Office work there. And we are unable to accurately, verify them and really get into the lower depths of what passenger queue creation looks like and how it's affected. So there are some automation systems out there. They are port operator owned. Border Force do not own them, which comes up with some data management issues. And actually, a lot of the time, ports recall that actually they're not that accurate, and they're not representing what they're seeing on the ground. I'm going to hand over to our data scientist and media expert, Chris Hyland.
Thanks, Lucy. So, as well as Lucy's first-hand experience, we've also gathered evidence of the needs and pain points of several key user groups, including passengers and a range of civil servants. We've drawn on existing Home Office research where it exists, and we've complemented that with our own social media analysis of passenger experiences, and also regular engagement with several Home Office staff. And a key theme that emerged from our social media analysis of passenger experiences is that for many passengers, it's not having an idea of what queue lengths are likely to be can mean they can't plan aspects of their journeys. So the first tweet here is somebody having to ask the internet at large if anybody knows how long queue times generally are at Heathrow Terminal 5 in order that they could plan onwards train travel, and sadly they got no replies. And the second demonstrates that when border control occurs before you travel, not having a good sense of what those times are likely to be can mean that you miss transport altogether. Now, to run through our solutions to all the problems Lucy and I have laid out, now I'm going to hand over to Richard. Richard is a data engineer at the Office for National Statistics and a technical architect for SmartQ. Richard.
Thanks, Chris. We've explored a number of options, and I'm going to take you through them very briefly. So at the top, we looked at some hardware options, but they ultimately were too expensive. We worked out some solutions around semi-autonomous methods, similar to how a supermarket stock takes. But ultimately, we ended up needing more staff time than Border Force could use. And so we ended up with 2 solutions based around linking existing data sources. And these are the 2 solutions that we're going to take you through today. So first of all, we need to define our problem. When a passenger arrives at a port, either by rail, air, or sea, the first thing they do is arrive at the gate. And so the key milestones, the 3 key milestones we're going to establish in this problem are, the first one is they arrive at the gate. They then walk from the gate to the back of the arrivals hall. That marks our second milestone. They queue in the passport control area until they scan their passport, and that is our third milestone. It's the end of our definition of a queue. So what we tried to do was find those key milestones in existing data sources that we had access to. So looking at the data, the first data source we need is API. Advanced Passenger Information records information about who's traveling. Most of you will be familiar with API. It's made up from the information that you submit as passengers a couple of days ahead of you flying, for example. Importantly for us, there's one feed of API that gets updated with the arrival gate and port time. So that's our first milestone hit. Border Force have a second data set called Border Force walk times, which records the time it takes to go from the gate to the back of the arrivals hall. And we have a third data set, Border Crossings, BX, which records the time a passenger scans their passport. If we can link these three data sets together, and if we can find the same passengers through these three data sets through linkage, then we can match their data journey back to their physical journey and automatically calculate how long they were queuing for. API and BX both contain personally identifiable information, PII, so we have to be careful about how we link those data sources. And the two solutions that we've got are essentially two different ways of handling the PII linkage problem safely. The first method is to hash the data inside the secure environment and take a real-time feed of the hashed data out into the processing environment where we link it on the third source and produce the queues. This has the advantage that we need to do less to the feed of data we require, but we're slightly less able to adjust for errors in the data set when we link. The second option is we discovered that the Home Office already has something called an IBM Big Match system, which is able to securely link API and BX. This system is able to use more of the PII for linkage, so we were able to adjust for errors in the data set more easily. The problem with this solution is that at present they batch process and batch feed data, and it doesn't produce the real-time feed we need, but we're currently working with them to look at the engineering requirements of how we would modify that. On to the final slide. We've been through quite a lot of technical stuff, but essentially we've got two solutions that we are ready to take forward. Both of them are based on linking existing data sources to generate this new feed of data. And both of them are based around handling the PII linkage safely. They'll produce accurate passenger-level queue data for the UK for the first time, and they'll cover over 120 million passenger journeys per year. I'm now going to hand you back to Chris, who's going to show us what the solution might look like.
Thanks, Richard. So to start exploring how this data could be presented to passengers to best meet their needs, we've built a working prototype of a web application called Find Passport Control Wait Times, using, of course, dummy data for now, sadly. It allows passengers to choose a particular port. They can choose to view times for today, the past, or a future date. And if they choose today, they can see the current wait time, recorded wait times earlier in the day, and estimated wait times later in the day, assuming this analysis was conducted. And because hypothetically this would just be a public website, deploying this to ports across the country could be as simple as printing A4 sheets of paper with a link that takes passengers straight to the right page. And now to summarise, I'm going to hand back to Dave. Dave is a delivery lead at the Future Border and Immigration Systems team at the Home Office and a project manager for SmartQ. Dave.
Thanks, Chris. So, you've heard the problem, and as is from Lucy. We've seen some examples of user experience with Chris. Richard has given an excellent insight into how we would leverage existing data sets with an innovative and rapidly scalable approach. Chris has then shown us the art of the possible with a GDS-compliant, easy-to-use customer-facing service. We will enable cross-government collaboration through data sharing. CDDO work with government organisations to achieve digital data and technology transformation at scale. We believe the SmartQ project delivers precisely that we can surpass good and provide a great service, delivering an enhanced customer journey, promoting trust and a reliable service experience. And so on to the next steps. So we hope to secure your sponsorship today to take this idea forwards, finalise the approach and enable a solution to further develop relations with stakeholders. We'll conceptualise the MI dashboard, potentially leveraging existing Home Office technology such as Vantage, or using a commercial off-the-shelf COTS product to build a bespoke item. We will define the MVP for the initial 50k investment and detail a high-level roadmap. We'll firm up the benefits and impact, which is data set dependent. Either approach will drive considerable value add. Beyond the early expected low development and delivery costs, scalability is rapid and comes with little increase in overheads. That concludes this presentation. We've been SmartQ. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Okay, we've got 50 minutes for questions. Who wants to kick us off?
Hi team, we've met previously, so nice to see you getting a great update. I was actually in Manchester Airport Arrivals Hall last week after a whole stack of flights arrived from Abu Dhabi, and the queue was going right out the back. It was a very cramped Terminal 1 Arrivals Hall there. I share that just for context of having seen the reality of this. I guess you're really clear on the solution, but I'd like to understand more about benefits. And I guess, Lucy, starting with yourself, what benefits do Border Force seniors see from having far better quality MI on queue wait times?
I think one of the large ones, obviously I've spoken about strategic modelling and things, better models, being able to make better decisions. But currently, if a minister were to ask what is the queue time at a certain place, we're unable to give that information. And I think that's a real big one, because it's a lot of ministerial focus about queue times. We talk a lot about queue times at the SLT level.